The last time anyone saw Daniel Reed, he was walking alone down Oak Ridge Lane at exactly 11:42 p.m. The security camera outside a small gas station captured him as he passed under the glow of a flickering streetlight. His hands were stuffed into the pockets of his gray hoodie, his stride steady but purposeful. He didn't look drunk or lost. He looked like a man heading somewhere specific. Then, less than 2 minutes later, he was gone. It wasn't until the next morning that anyone realized he was missing. His roommate, Mark Sullivan, woke up to find Daniel's bed untouched. The TV was still on, stuck on a paused video game screen. His phone, wallet, and keys sat on the nightstand. Everything was normal, except for the fact that Daniel wasn't there. At first, Mark thought maybe Daniel had crashed at a friend's place, but when he checked with everyone they knew, the answer was always the same. No one had seen him. That's when he called the police. Detective Olivia Harris took the case. When she arrived at Daniel's apartment, she immediately noticed something odd. The front door had been unlocked all night. "Are you sure he didn't just step out for air?" she asked. Mark shook his head. Daniel wasn't like that. He never left without his phone, and if he was going somewhere, he would have told me. Harris reviewed the gas station footage next. There he was, Daniel Reed, 22 years old, walking past the store at 11:42 p.m. But what bothered her wasn't just that he disappeared. It was the detail in the background. A black sedan sat parked down the street, engine running. The headlights flashed once. 2 frames later, Daniel was gone. Harris rewound the footage, watching it again. The way Daniel walked. Was he going to that car? Did he know the driver, or had someone forced him inside? Her gut told her this wasn't a simple case of a young man running away. Someone had lured Daniel out that night. And now he was missing. Detective Olivia Harris sat in her office, replaying the gas station footage for the 3rd time. The black sedan's presence wasn't a coincidence. The way its headlights flickered just before Daniel vanished suggested one thing. Someone in that car had been waiting for him. But why? She ran the vehicle's license plate through the system. The results came back quickly, rented under a fake name. No credit card trail, no phone number, no paper trail. Whoever had lured Daniel out that night knew how to cover their tracks. Frustrated, Harris turned to Daniel's digital footprint. His phone, still sitting on his nightstand, was locked, but his roommate Mark offered a clue. He'd been acting weird for days, Mark admitted. Kept checking his phone like he was waiting for something. I asked him about it, but he just brushed it off. That led Harris to Daniel's laptop. It took less than an hour for the tech team to pull up his messages, and when they did, they found something chilling. A conversation between Daniel and an unknown number. Unknown, it has to be tonight. Daniel, I don't know, man, this is weird. Unknown. Trust me, you'll want to see this. Daniel, fine, but if this is a joke, I'm out. Harris's stomach twisted. The timestamp? 10:57 p.m., less than an hour before Daniel vanished. Someone had set this up. Someone had convinced Daniel to leave his apartment in the middle of the night, and if Daniel had hesitated, that meant he didn't fully trust whoever he was meeting. Harris leaned back in her chair, tapping a pen against the desk. If Daniel had been abducted, the person behind it had taken time to gain his trust first. This wasn't random. She checked the rest of Daniel's messages. No saved contacts, no recent calls, no social media updates. But one word stood out in his search history, repeated over and over. The Red Pines incident. Harris had heard of it before. 3 hikers who disappeared in 2017, their campsite left untouched. Their bodies were never found. What was Daniel looking for? And had he found it? The first real break in the case came 36 hours after Daniel's disappearance. Detective Olivia Harris had been combing through traffic camera footage, hoping to spot the black sedan. Then, finally, she found it. At 12:24 a.m., barely 40 minutes after Daniel was last seen, the car was recorded passing through a highway toll booth, heading out of town. Destination? A stretch of highway leading to nowhere in particular. No big cities, no known contacts, just miles of open road. But one location stood out. A rundown motel on Route 19. Harris and her team wasted no time. By sundown, they arrived at the Riverside Motel, a place that looked like it had been forgotten by time. The neon sign flickered weakly, half the rooms were boarded up, and the front desk smelled like stale coffee and cigarette smoke. The manager, an old man with a gruff voice and tired eyes, barely looked up from his crossword puzzle when Harris approached. "You got a guy check in last night?" she asked, showing him a picture of Daniel. The manager squinted, then nodded. "Yeah, room 7. Didn't see him leave, though." Harris felt her pulse quicken. Daniel had been here. With her hand resting on her holstered weapon, she and her team approached room 7. The door was unlocked. Inside, the air was thick with mildew and dust. The bed was untouched. The TV was still on, playing static. And on the desk, next to an old lamp, lay Daniel's phone. The screen was cracked, the battery was dead. But that wasn't the worst part. Taped to the mirror was a note, written in red ink. "He shouldn't have come." Harris felt a chill crawl up her spine. Someone had brought Daniel here. Someone had left this message behind. But where was Daniel now? The team searched the motel grounds, but there was no sign of him. No security footage, no witnesses, just an abandoned phone, a cryptic warning, and the sinking feeling that Daniel was running out of time. Detective Olivia Harris sat at her desk, staring at Daniel's phone. Even though the screen was cracked and the battery was dead, she knew it held answers. The tech team managed to extract its data, and what they found sent chills down her spine. A string of searches, all pointing to one thing. The Red Pines incident. Harris leaned back in her chair, the name ringing a distant bell in her memory. Red Pines was a state park about 60 miles out, infamous for an unsolved case in 2017. 3 hikers had vanished without a trace. Their bodies were never found. Only their abandoned campsite remained, along with one eerie detail. A strange symbol carved into a tree near the site. No leads, no arrests, and eventually the case faded into obscurity. But Daniel Reed had been looking into it. Why? She dug deeper. His internet history showed visits to obscure forums, conspiracy sites, and local crime blogs. He had read every article, every theory, as if he were trying to piece something together. Then came his last search before he disappeared. Red Pines incident, witness found? Harris's heart pounded. Was that what led Daniel to the motel on Route 19? Had he found someone who claimed to know what really happened? She went back to the messages on his laptop. Unknown, it has to be tonight. Daniel, I don't know, man, this is weird. Unknown. Trust me, you'll want to see this. Had Daniel met someone who knew something dangerous? Harris's gut told her that whatever Daniel had been chasing, he had gotten too close. Someone had lured him in under the guise of revealing the truth. Now he was gone. But there was one last clue. The motel ledger showed another guest checking in the same night as Daniel under a fake name. The room next to Daniel's had been occupied by someone who left in the middle of the night. No ID, no credit card, just a note in the log. Detective Olivia Harris gripped the wheel as she drove down the deserted road toward Red Pines State Park. The dense forest loomed on either side, swallowing what little moonlight managed to break through the thick clouds. It was past midnight by the time she reached the park's entrance. The wind howled through the trees, rattling the worn wooden sign that read, "Entered at your own risk." Harris pulled out Daniel's case file, flipping through the last confirmed evidence. The motel records showed that the unknown guest, the one who had checked in beside Daniel, had left for Red Pines. If this person had taken Daniel with them, this was the best chance she had of finding him alive. She parked her car near the ranger station, but the place was abandoned. No signs of security, no lights, just a quiet unease creeping through the air. She pulled out her flashlight and stepped into the woods. The deeper she went, the worse it felt. Then, a sound. A faint rustling, just beyond the trees. Harris drew her gun, stepping cautiously toward the source. The leaves crunched beneath her boots as she followed the noise through the undergrowth. Then she saw it. An old, decaying cabin hidden deep in the woods. The wooden door creaked open slightly, swaying with the wind. Harris took a breath, steadied her grip, and pushed inside. The stench of mildew and rotting wood hit her instantly. The room was small, just a single wooden table, a stained mattress, and a rusted lantern. But what caught her attention was a shredded gray hoodie in the corner. Daniel's hoodie. It was torn and stained with blood. Her pulse pounded. She moved deeper inside, searching for anything, any clue as to where Daniel had gone. Then she noticed something scratched into the wooden wall. It wasn't a note. It was a symbol. The same strange marking found near the vanished hiker's campsite in 2017. Suddenly, a noise from behind, a twig snapping. Harris spun around, gun raised. But she was too late. Something moved in the darkness. And then the lights went out. Detective Olivia Harris barely had time to react before the cabin was plunged into total darkness. Her heart pounded as she swung her flashlight toward the sound. The beam flickered, catching glimpses of movement, shadows shifting between the trees. Someone, or something, was out there. A voice broke the silence, low, raspy, almost a whisper. "You shouldn't have come." Harris raised her gun, stepping back toward the wall. "Where is Daniel Reed?" she demanded, scanning the room, but the voice just chuckled. Then, a heavy thud behind her. She spun around just as a figure lunged from the shadows. She barely had time to move before she was knocked to the ground, her gun skidding across the wooden floor. A knee pressed into her chest, pinning her down. Her flashlight rolled to the side, casting an eerie glow over her attacker. A man, disheveled, wild-eyed, covered in dirt. Harris recognized his face instantly. He was in the police files, one of the missing hikers from 2017. He was supposed to be dead. "Where's Daniel?" she gritted out, struggling against his grip. The man just grinned, his cracked lips twisting. He saw what he wasn't supposed to see. With a desperate burst of strength, Harris twisted free, elbowing him hard in the ribs. He howled in pain, stumbling back just long enough for her to grab her flashlight and gun. She trained the light on him. "Tell me where he is." The man shook his head, his body trembling. "You don't understand. They don't let you leave once you know. He's already gone." Harris' stomach turned. No. He had to be alive. A sound from outside made them both freeze. A low, guttural growl. The man's expression changed from manic to pure terror. "There. Here," he whispered. Then, without warning, he bolted out the door, disappearing into the forest. Harris's grip tightened around her gun. She turned toward the wall, eyes locking onto the strange symbol carved into the wood. A warning. Suddenly, from the darkness outside, a whisper slithered through the trees. "Run!" And then, a blood-curdling scream. Harris didn't hesitate. She grabbed Daniel's torn hoodie and bolted into the woods, her mind racing. Something had taken Daniel, and now it was hunting her.